Yes.
I'm seeing people turning on their cameras. That means that everybody can hear me. Okay, have an awesome night for the people who are enjoying their morning. Have an awesome morning, y'all. Okay, so today we are actually kickstarting our second module of our digital art program, training program, and we are welcoming. I just made a drum noise. Monica, for our amazing talk session, social and cultural considerations in digital art. So let me really quickly introduce Monica to you. Monica is an electronic artist hailing from Barcelona. She has a diverse academic background and was actually honored with the 2021 Catalan National Culture Award. Such a success. Monica's actually artistic approach melts the realms of creative coding and electronics to craft interactive projects, robotic installations, and distinctive electronic contrivances. In today's talk session, we're welcoming Monica as we delve into the interactive realm of digital art. So we will explore the pertinent topics such as appropriation, AI-generated art, and the social and cultural considerations of digital creations. Also, in every talk session we hold, this talk session will be streaming on our YouTube channel. So we are also welcoming other worlds. I'm not gonna take too much of Monica's time and pass my mic to her while we continue to welcome more participants. And at the end of the session, Monica will leave us with a question. This is our intention, at least, so we'll see how it goes. And we're going to continue with a small co-ideation as we intended to do with Rolanda's session. For those who also participated in that session will remember. So, okay, I am passing my mic to you, Monica. Maybe you can start with, again, introducing yourself.
And yeah, then... okay. Do you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Oh, wow, that's big. Hello, me. Okay, well, hello, everybody. As I'm going to share my screen. I will be going in and out with sharing my screen. Let's put well, I don't need the sound now, but I will put it. Where is it? Here. Okay. Because in this presentation I have a little reel that I can. Okay. So thank you very much for the introductions. I'm Mónica Rikić. I'm an electronic artist from Barcelona, although I'm very happy to say hello to greet you all from Montreal, where I'm actually here in Canada doing a residency with a European program called EMAP. And I'm going to be here until mid-October, 3 more weeks to go in this rush of creating a machine that it's aligned to these type of machines that you can see in the video. So my main aesthetic language or artistic language is handmade electronics, that I like to call them, or some people call it creative robotics, some people call it like maker art, like, I don't know. So different things that have to be with technology, which has also become not only my way of expressing myself as a tool, but also a conceptual framework for all my practice, where I always try to analyze and merge philosophy and engineer in a way through art to question and to try to understand what is the technological mutation and the technological aspect of the digital world we exist. Like, it actually became as a very like inside need to be able to express the world. I guess that a lot of people here are artists or have an art interest, like everybody, and that's why we do art. But yeah, I found in technology like a very big inspiration, as I said, not only as a tool but also as a conceptual framework. That being said, I would like to, well, as I also said, like, I'm not only interested in art, but I'm a very big philosophy enthusiast. That's what I would like to start this presentation with a quote from Gilbert Simondon in his work on the mode of existence of technical objects. And yeah, this is actually the end of a paragraph in which the author describes how culture has traditionally treated the technical object as a stranger. And that's an idea that really interests me because although I started working from experimental games and games that go outside the screen type of practice, I have shifted for the past years in working around the idea of artificial intelligence, and not that much with artificial intelligence generated art, but in the idea of artificial intelligence as the subject of technology, no, as this stranger that the Gilbert Simondon says. And going back to Simondon, he realizes also in the continuation of this practice that this strange and foreign human is this strange or foreign being is still human, no, and a complete culture. I'm just reading the end of his quote, sorry, for stepping up. And a complete culture is one which enables us to discover the foreign or strange as human. The machine is the stranger. It is the stranger inside which something human is locked up, misunderstood, materialized, enslaved, and yet which nevertheless remains human all human all the same. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a bit, and then I will, come back to this, because these ideas really describes what's my interest practice actually regarding to this cultural and social concerns in digital art making. And although I don't know if you've noticed, but the date of publication of the text that I just posted, it might seem that it's a little far on time. I think that this reflection is very present, especially in this time where the artificial intelligence discussions has entered daily conversation of a lot of people, and most of the people, I would say, that don't necessarily have prior understanding or interest in technology. No, so that being said, and going back to the subject of this talk in relation to the cultural and social concerns, as I said, of digital making and focused mostly in artificial intelligence, maybe, we can, if we think about cultures, we can say that most of them, because I don't really like to generalize, but most cultures have a sharing strategy for describing something that they don't know, like this thing I was telling you, like people maybe don't know that much about technology. So the strategy that culturally we use for describing the unknown, it's the creation of metaphors, right? That seems very obvious, but I would like to bring this in a subject. And science and technology, especially science, have used metaphors through all the years to explain its discoveries. But metaphors are not only used to describe things. Okay, I don't know if any of you are related to art, science, and technology, but some people make a mistake understanding that in the world of art, science, and technology, art is only a way for describing these discoveries, for describing science. But I would like to defend, and a lot of people like me defend, that these metaphors or these art approaches are not only used to describe things, but they are also very powerful cultural devices that define the imaginaries of future research. So they are also tools for pointing out what future research would be. If we focus, for example, in computing, and especially in the development of artificial cognitive systems, that is usually called artificial intelligence. Okay, I just try to avoid, especially, so my first language is Spanish, as you know, and intelligence is a big word, so I prefer to say cognitive systems. Although here in Canada, I've been talking about the difference between intelligence and cognitive for different people, understanding people, at least French-speaking people here. Well, anyway, what I was trying to say is the main metaphor for developing this type of systems of artificial intelligence that was set in 1958 was the metaphors that mind is a computer. right? So we always have this idea. If we talk about machines, if we talk about artificial intelligence, if we talk about computers, everybody thinks like the idea of mind is a computer in us. It was actually something that actually started, like if we go deeper and you research why that was the reason why those first scientists described mind as a computer, it was in a way to get funding, right? Not only, but a way, you know, for creating like a metaphor that we can achieve being like these gods, that we can recreate a mind using this computer, no? But the problem is that the entire field of computing and artificial intelligence have been focused on that to a point that the metaphor has mutated in a very interesting way. So initially, the metaphor served for defining the unknown, which was the machine back then. But now it seems like the unknown is the mind. And we know the machine. So we define the mind, which is what we don't know, as a computer. And I really think that that is a problem. No, what is the problem of defining the mind as a machine in the present? Well, if we think about computers, and maybe like later when we talk about, when we do the separate rooms, or when we bring up this question that we were just talking about, if I think in a machine in Western cultures, at least in my background, in my Spanish culture, we define machines as fast. We define machines as productive, speed, strong, capable, much capable to do to perform efficient tasks that we humans do, or so we do, so we believe, right? So the dominant techniques that are most popular in the development of artificial intelligence systems are based in these philosophical concepts that prevail underneath all these fast, productive, speed, strong, and everything capabilities, right? And these philosophical principles are mostly mechanicism, rationalism, dualism, and above all, extractivism. Extractivism of both very large databases created without conscious consent from most of us. I mean, we cannot do, I don't know if you're related, we can talk about that later if you want, about the opt-in or opt-out of being in artificial intelligence. We are already in that system that normally belongs to very, very private companies, and also extractivist of energy and human resources that make them work. Not only ecological concerns we should take in account when we talk about artificial intelligence, but also human work conditions in some different countries. So it is not only a thing of technology development and markets, but it also concerns a lot of cultural and human problems. So that being said, like when we go to this, when we take all this metaphor, when we think about machines in that way, and how all this idea of artificial intelligence have developed, we face with the impossibility of suppressing the machines, no? And that's what we humans tend to think about technology nowadays in the imaginary of war. Right? We will always think about, oh, you know, ChatGPT is coming to kill us all. Yeah, like these type of ideas are prevailing, maybe not to all of you, but to a mainstream understanding. So our relationship with technology is being based in fear, and therefore on a struggle between them, the machines, and then I want to really like make you pay an attention that we already put the machines as objective name. We call them against us, right? Against this stranger that Simondon spoke of at the beginning of my talk, whom we are no longer capable of seeing as parts of ourselves. Okay, now we could go much further into the development and discussion of all these concepts I presented, and I hope it will all continue if you want later in the Q&A or whatever. But since my time is limited, and I would actually like to, after this, introduce you to a little bit of some of my works that I did in this conceptual framework. I would like to defend, before going to these works, to analyzing these works, the need of art as a space of experimentation, knowledge, and the production, the space of experimentation and knowledge creation and production of new metaphors that will help us face the present and future challenges that we have in technology, especially cultural and social future challenges. So artistic research, as I see it, and obviously I will be more than happy to open this to discussion, is a space where science and technology can detach themselves from the objectives of restrictive production and demonstration, and they can stop focusing on answering questions. Why? Because art does not provide answers. Art has the primary attribute of raising new questions, of creating spaces of reflection, and if we put the proper intention on it, it can actually define new lines of research through this process. Like if we apply it to a research and creation process, for example. Another thing that I think is very important regarding to all this is that without any intention, sorry for my English, we have become, and I think this is very, very important for me, we have become mere consumers of technologies, and we have stopped producing and reproducing it. You know, this is fact. It's very important because we find ourselves surrounded by technological devices to interact with the world, to interact socially, and even to interact with ourselves. The channels of communications and the channels of cultural and social connections with the world around us and with our inner world even are ruled by codes that we have not produced or we have not collectively agreed upon. You know, these codes have been imposed in a way to us, and we are through this process, there has been promoted a cognitive automation that transcends cultures and borders. What do I mean with this? By this, I mean that if you go to, I don't know if any of you have the chance to travel to different countries and countries that are not European or countries that are not Western, you can see that we have common technologies that are used in different, they are slightly used in different ways, but in the end, they are imposed in imposing like a larger technological culture that might not be according to the environment and to the needs, the social needs of the communities. And this is why I would like to defend the role of art practices in the creation of alternative and diverse technologies. And I will go back to this, to exemplifying what I mean by this through my works that I will present in a couple of minutes. So if, through my practice, I would like to defend that if each of us is capable of producing, envisioning, and representing our own experiences and realities with the world through technologies, we will be able to break free from universalized narratives about the possibilities and conditions of existence in this technological world. I believe that in order for technology to be inclusive and respectful in a cultural and social way, we should all understand our agency and responsibility in the production and reproduction of it. And just a parenthesis, I don't mean we don't have to be like super experts. We don't need to be coders, super perfect coders. We just need to see that we have agency, we can decide, we can experiment, you know, that technology are not black boxes, they are not predefined by larger companies. We can jam, we can, by just jamming and playing, going back to this idea of play with technology or play with whatever, it doesn't even play with the concepts around technology. We will gain a bigger understanding, not just consuming the world, but also finding ways or understanding at least what's the production of the world. So let's forget about perfection. Let's enjoy the error. Let's enjoy tinkering, the curiosity, and the understanding of this strange machine that comes from the very inside of ourselves. Let's understand technology as a channel of information transmission and transformation that can lead us to new altered states of consciousness, okay? As long as we make it ours, plural, and diverse. So I'm going back now for some minutes to my, where is it? Here, okay, to my presentation, so I can show you a little bit about how I apply these concepts to my practice. So when I started focusing like this, I would like to start with this work that that was made in 2018, and that was the first work that I did in relation to this idea of the subjectivized technology through the idea of artificial intelligence, or in this case, the idea of robots, right? Like robot in the end, but the things like robot, artificial intelligence kind of in the same way. So there was this, I remember there was me as an artist, I applied to a lot of open calls for exhibiting and for doing residencies like the one I'm doing here. And I remember there was in 2018, in relation to the Mobile World Congress, this open call that was about, what was it? It was robots and so, not robots, it was like social relations, technologies, robots, and data. Okay, so for me, I was trying to work with artificial intelligence. I was working with this artificial intelligence generative programs and techniques that we were talking about before, or we just mentioned at the beginning of the talk. And I was like, man, this is boring. Like, I mean, seriously, like, I don't know, like you need to have like these super massive computers, you know, you need to have like these massive databases that don't even belong to you. Like I wanted these guys, like these little robots that you see here, like speaking to each other. And back then in 2018, the only thing that I could use for natural language processing was Dialogflow that belonged to Google. And I'm like, this is so super boring. I mean, like, why can't we just like play? Like I come from art, like also, like I had this thing that I studied fine arts and I started programming and doing electronics. And I thought that I had so much to show the world, that I was a woman, that I didn't study engineer, that I could program and that I could do technology. And then I was doing this and it's like, man, this is boring. Like I come from art. I'm going to forget about like showing everybody how cool can I program. And I'm going to start subverting or trying to create these new imaginaries. So I created these little guys that they represent these robots that live behind our devices and steal our data. And what they do is they gossip with the data. So they don't try to destroy the world. They don't try to be, let me see if I can show you. Okay, this is a video. They don't try to destroy the world with the data, you know. They are not going to create the robot apocalypse. They get your data and then they go back home and then they gossip about the data they've been stealing you. And this has to be with all this, the theory of gossip, you know, that means that one of that gossip had made our way of thinking larger as humans, because we humans are social beings, right? So we like to share our experience about the world, and then we share experiences about each other, and that's how we socialize. And it's a technique that will help us to find enemies and allies inside communities. And this, for me, was very important that these little robots that were gossiping were hanging on these ropes, and they were walking around, because what I remember from my mom when I was little was her gossiping with the neighbors while she was hanging the clothes. In Spain, for drying the clothes, we hang them through the window, and that was like a winkle to that, like saying, hey. Another thing that I really like that you can actually see in this work from my practice is like working in layers. So first of all, there's a layer where it's very colorful, that you can see like the machines, they are fun, they are like, what are they, you know? So that's a first layer that for me is very important, that for people that are not specialized in art can go and think about, oh, what is these guys? You know, I want to learn more about them. And then I'm like, yeah, they are robots that gossip. And then, you know, you get them interested, and then you can go to the conceptual part. And then there's also my geek part, which is that I make all of them by myself, because I like to do these handmade electronic things that I was telling you about. And yeah, so that was the starting point of creating this idea of putting myself in the skin of the robots and try to think about what they would actually do if they were made, like if they would ever get conscious, which I have to say now here that I don't think that would ever happen. And this is another robot that was the continuation of that other one, because I was also like there, like thinking about my things about how would, artificial intelligence be in the future and blah, blah, blah. And then I saw this other open call and they were like, art and artificial intelligence. And I was like, man, like if you put a robot in an art space, maybe they don't want to be art. And if they want to be art, maybe they would like to do some other type of art that it's not what we force them to do, right? So I created a machine that has the imposter syndrome because it's exhibited like art, but it cannot be art, right? Like, at least it cannot be art like humans. I mean, if you have an artificial intelligence system and you make the artificial intelligence make paintings, why does it want to be paintings? It doesn't want to make paintings. Maybe it wants to do some other thing. And especially maybe it doesn't want to do paintings of human faces because they are not remarkable in their life or whatever. So I wanted to bring this idea up, creating this machine, which is a soft robot that it's breathing inside. I'm just going to put this in the back, the video with a slow, like the, okay, let me see. Well, while it charges, okay. So
expectation.
It's a machine that talks to you. It has the microphones.
I feel comfortable here.
You will see it now. It's displayed as normal, as usually art projects are displayed in a transparent case, inside a support.
Else?
And it's complaining.
I'm not art. I can't.
You can see it here.
I will.
I'm going to put it a little lower.
I just want to be accepted.
So it's telling you like, I want to be accepted, leave me alone.
Project your wishes.
As you say, it's not my fault that you project your wishes. I'm just going to put the sound a little bit down. I can't because there's like people here. Okay, sorry. I had all your faces here on the side. I couldn't. Okay. So the machine is there. It's complaining every time you get closer to it. It gets more and more stressed, more and more stressed. And what I like most of these projects, sorry, I'm going to put the volume out because I get distracted. But what I liked more from this project is that it had, it's called the computer that wanted to be uncomputable. And what I liked more of this project is that it get to a point that people were like, you don't really see this in the video, but people would get very stressed by the movements of the machine. And then they were like, oh, poor little machine. And I used to come to them and tell them, hey, if you feel sorry for it, you can kill it. And you actually have a pedal that you can push and kill the machine. And just by putting this little interaction thing, people go nuts. Like people like really think about it, because some people are like, oh no, I don't want to kill it. And actually, if you think that you are killing the machine by just pressing a pedal that we would do, it would disconnect the electronics and then make it live again. We jump into a very interesting question that I really like it, which is that the possibility of existence of machines, as we said with Simon and Donna at the beginning, or the possibility of existence of artificial consciousness whatsoever, or even systems that simulate artificial intelligence, it's a matter of cultural and social attribution. It doesn't depend that much on technological developments as cultural and social attribution, and philosophical, of course, if you let me, right? So, for example, let's say another thing, like, okay, let's say I'm going to put example that is completely like different, okay, but if we think about birds, birds, but I was going to say trees. If we think about trees, and now I will explain this one. If we think about trees, no one will say that trees are not alive, right? Everybody like, yeah, trees are alive. Yeah, trees are alive. We all know trees are alive, but trees don't experiment life the same way as we do, right? But we've been told all our lives, it has some, so there's some different conditions in a tree that we assume as being alive, which is being organic, when it's born, it dies, it grows, there's different conditions. So I started questioning in some of my works later after, which would be the conditions that would let us identify machines not as living objects, because I don't think they are living, but that they have their own way of existence. All these technological developments that make these machines so complex can create a complex artificial system that can take active part in the configuration of the world, right? Okay, so that's another thing that I will get back. And just finishing, I wanted to show you this project, just finishing with this idea of gossiping robots and robots with the imposter syndrome. I took the research one step further, and I created, this is a machine with existential crisis, okay? Because, I mean, after the imposter syndrome, the direct connection would be like to have existential crisis, because actually, if you think about it, And if you are, imagine that you are a machine and you suddenly get conscious, but you realize that you've been made in the same way, like in image as humans, but you are not a human, like you are something completely different, right? It's a little bit like in some religions, like we are made in the idea of God, but God is another thing, it's completely different. So this machine gets conscious and realize that it's made in a way of a human, and her way of experience is nothing to do with humans. So she goes to this totem, which is an spiritual totem, to I'm going to search that. It's a spiritual totem to find the meaning of its existence. And in this project, you can, I'm going to move it a little bit further. It's this totem that you can travel with the machine through its existential crisis with your hand without touching, and you travel through this 3D generative world where you can keep reading the thoughts, obviously thoughts of the machine, and some other manifestos from the beginning of the internet, like the Mutant Beach Manifesto or the Declaration of Independence of the Internet, because I'm a very cyberpunk geek, I have to say. So I put those things that I really like from the beginning of the freedom of the technologies. And yeah, you can ask, well, I'm just going to take the chance to say that you can check all these works in my website if you want to go a little bit deeper. And in the end, this idea of, I continued experimenting with this idea of artificial spirituality, which was like the other project, is like, why don't we, and I want to go back to this idea I told you before about how we talk about technology all the time with this idea, this background, no, or this narrative of war, like we are constantly fighting against it. And I wanted to take that narrative, no, that fiction, to the idea of spirituality, and spirituality understood as a space where we humans go to connect with beings that are alien to us. They can be nature, they can be higher beings for whoever believes in them, or it can be, I don't know, some people like the shamans connect with spiritual spaces through the medicine of plants, or like different ways of reaching these connections with the outside world. And I created this is a smaller project which was actually a portal to communicate, to spiritually communicate with a machine. Obviously it all should be understood as a metaphor, and you could like code with the computer, and the computer will answer you with shamanic singing. To finish up, this is the video of my last solo exhibition, where I had the opportunity to exhibit in this amazing space in Barcelona called La Capella. And I just want to finish up with this as a closure, where you can see all the languages that I use with technology, and all this colorfulness that I was telling you, all this, let the technology be seen, and what I wanted to do in this exhibition is to create 6 different artworks that would represent an alternative and diverse and strange way of evolution of artificial cognitive systems or artificial intelligence, especially focused on not defining the simulation or expression of intelligence just with a spoken and written language, but with physical expression. And this is actually what I'm working here. Like, I really believe physical, mechanical, and coding expression, but I'm not going to show you the coding expression if you're not specialized in code. Like, how can you represent cognition, or how can machines be, like, have their own way of existence, a way of representing it with written and spoken language as chatbots like ChatGPT or other artificial intelligence machines, and making very simple mechanical systems that will give us the same uncanny feeling as these artificial intelligence systems that speak to us, and that will make us feel that they are somehow alive. I don't like to use the word alive, but they somehow have their own way of existence in the world. And And yeah, and this is more also like the balloons that you see in the end are the last work, like going back to the I'll show you now in the next picture, going back to this idea of and to finish up with the artificial spirituality thing I was telling you about, in the last part of the exhibition, I created this space where you could see these balloons that were breathing. They were like meditating, and people could lay down in these poofs, no, in these sofas that you can see in the floor. And it was very nice because I could, if I was explaining the exhibition, I could explain like the different states that I'm not going to explain here, but you have the leaflet in my website if you want to download in Spanish, Catalan, and in English. And it explains all the exhibition. And in this last part, I would take people and say like, this thing about not talking about technology in the realm of war, but trying to connect it in a different way, in a spiritual way, as understanding it as part of us. And people could lay down here and really kind of experiment technology in a very slow and mellow way, like trying to, you know, feel relaxed and not being stressed and anxious about technology. And people were very curious about the systems of the exhibition by this technique that I had of letting people see how the systems were. This, for example, this one with the worms kind of moving, it was a very simple mechanical system, but people were like, I remember the curator of the exhibition not wanted to get close to it because he was scared of snakes somehow. And he was like, I don't want to get close to it. That was fun. And yeah, so I think I'm going to stop here. Thank you very much for listening. And if you want, we can jump into the question. Well, the question, can I say it? Yeah, I mean.
Maybe before you ask,
okay.
I think okay, some space for participants to ask
okay.
you.
Okay.
Because I know that you might be leaving in like 10 minutes or so. So let's
okay.
For you to answer some questions if the participants may have any.
Yeah.
But to not cause any stress on the participants, I'm giving you guys a few minutes to just. Oh yeah, we already have one. Please, Yuan, go for it.
Hi, hello, Mónica. Greetings from Ecuador. Also, I'm talking Spanish, but now I think that is the common language for us, English. I want to ask you, what was the most challenging technique or technology that you test and you use for your art? Thinking also in the way that you say that the spirituality and also this way that you think around the technology, what was the most challenging and what was the most interesting technology that you have been using this time?
Well, for example, like the project that I'm developing here, well, you know, like if some of you are artists, you know, we're always in the run. Like we never had enough time for doing whatever really what we want to do. So that's why I enrolled in a PhD in order to focus on this thing that I'm just going to tell you. It's like, so in one side, and also as being an artist, you have to focus on how you represent, how you make people, like the audiences, feel about your work. For me, that's very important. That's what I was trying to do in my solo exhibition. But now I want to take it one step further and trying to represent those same things, but also in a scientific way that can be proved through code. I'm a coder. I really like coding. Now, for example, one of the technologies that I'm working here and that I've worked in the past was ROS, Robot Operating System. So it's like, how can I translate into that meta environment, or how can I translate in code? I usually, I don't know, I can program many languages through the years. I've been lucky to have the opportunity to learn them. But it's like, how can you translate in code, like in programming processes, the same thing that I can express by moving, you know? So you have like this part of the audience, which I've already convinced in a way, you know, like you have like people that like that feel it. But then I also want to go to the engineers and the scientists and some of the people saying like, yeah, but you know, this thing that happens in the outside, it's also proven in a new way of conceiving creative coding, you know, like through these processes and by making the choices, like creating like the system with code in a way that makes sense in a technological way, but also in the poetical way or conceptual. So that's what I'm trying to make here too. Yeah. and showing the code as part of the work too.
Thank you. And congrats for your work.
Thank you very much.
Is there any questions? Just feel free to send them on the chats or voice it out as Rodrigo.
Oh, there's one. Yeah.
Yes.
Hola, Mónica. How are you
Hola.
today? Which is the importance you give to the collaborative work? I think that if you are faces this kind of work in which you involve a lot of technology, of course, we don't have the knowledgement of every part of the technology. By example, if we want to make something like this, I probably need to talk with a programmer, or I don't know, engineering, or I don't know, which is the importance of a collaborative works to develop the kind of work that you do.
Well, in my side, like from my experience, I do all the electronics and programming of my work. I've been collaborating with people, for example, in my solo exhibition for the design, the exhibition design, like the lighting and the graphic design. I personally, I don't think it's the only way, but personally, I need to be able to make the things that's what I call it, handmade electronics, because for me it's like a sculpturing, like I need to do it.
Yeah.
And programming, like most of it, like I do it. I collaborate with people for me, for example, the music I put in some of my projects. I collaborate with people. Now here I'm collaborating with someone that can sew, because the machine will be like covered with fabrics and stuff. But this is because, well, like artists, we don't have that much money sometimes for making projects. Now that I'm lucky enough to have a little bit more budget, then I can collaborate with other people. Yeah, but because I didn't have any money, I had to learn everything by myself.
Yeah, I know.
It's
Self-off is the way at this moment for different kind of things. It's something that I face constantly, and some ways to me, yeah, I try to face some challenges, but sometimes I can go forward, because I have kind of barrier. I need to ask from some kind of help in some moment.
Yeah. Well, for me, for example, I found someone that that was an ex-student of mine that I really trust. That for me, it's been very difficult to find someone that I could trust and that I understands what I do. And that for me, collaborating with this person has been very nice, because I can also, even though I make my own things, like sometimes you need help, because I don't know, sometimes you're making like those flowers that were moving, there were 9 of them, it's like if I have to do 9 of them, 7 balloons, 7 it's like I need someone to help me with I mean at least repeating things. Yeah. that was
Right.
like in collaborations, like, and also like when I collaborate with people, I'm like, for example, with this person that I hear is helping me with the textile things. It's like, I have this idea, more or less, I'll show you a mood board, but I want you to bring your thing, to the project. It's like, because that's why I'm collaborating. Sometimes I have it like super clear, like the round, like the machine with existential crisis. I had the drawing and I asked someone to make it in metal, because I don't work in metal. But and the same as with some other works that I have that are very like, I want the shape, can you make it like building? But on some other parts, I'm very like with music or with graphic design or with sewing, I'm very like, hey, I have this idea, let's see what you can bring here, So yeah.
Exactly. That's great.
Mm.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Tabogo wanted to go next.
I don't hear you. Maybe you're muted.
No, he doesn't seem muted, but I cannot hear him as well.
No.
You hear me now?
You want to write? Oh yeah, now yes.
Yes. I wanted to ask. You talked about infusing technology with spirituality. Well, I'm in Africa, and in Africa, spirituality is one of the biggest things more than economy, if I'm right. So, and also on your example, you didn't talk much, but I think you said something like you infused a video with sound to get to your point. I wanted to know more about that, because it sounds very interesting. It made me think, actually.
about so you want to know about my approach with spirituality. So okay, so obviously my approach of through spirituality is from a Spanish background, obviously, like based in first of all, it was based on the ideas, the predefined ideas that we have in Catholic culture, probably that's what where the idea started from. And then I started working with that idea because so my devices, okay, the projects that I make, I conceive them as theatrical devices. Okay, so they interpret the concept they are saying. So they are like triggers for conceptual triggers when playing a role, you know, they play a role, you know. So this one was playing the role of having this existential crisis. And then I thought, okay, what do people do when they have an existential crisis? They go to spiritual places, right? So that was my first approach to spirituality, was like that, like, okay, why don't we take these two very separated concepts, which is artificiality and spirituality, and put it together and make people like do a click, no, saying like, why cannot this happen? But then the more and more I was going deep to the the spirituality concept, I realized that this thing, that the spirituality is in a wider understanding, is just a conceptual or a metaphoric space. It's a space where we go to connect with other beings that are not necessarily human. And that can be like anything, like people understand, you know? And then now it continues shifting a little bit more, since I'm related to people that that work in different with different spiritualities that are not that close to my tradition, although I'm not I don't practice any type of religion, but there are different ones, and I've heard them talking about plants as if they were technologies. People were talking about tarot as if it was technology. You know, some people were talking about technology, about spirituality and technology, as if technology was something very good. And I'm like, why cannot we do the same thing? You know, talk about technology in a spiritual way as if it was something good. You know, to find these humans inside technology, which it is there. You know, so I use it as a strategy to reveal that technology is human. Technology is not something away from us. Technology is not something that will I don't know, that will that it's not, that we don't have agency with, but it's something that we can, I don't know, that we actually have responsibility. Because if we don't see our responsibility in technology, then we're lost. That's what I think. So, but if you want, like, there's more like information on my website specialized in these concepts of artificiality. I also wrote a paper, although it's in Spanish, but I'm sure you can find the translation. That it talks about the existential crisis of machine and spirituality. I'll pass it to you if you want. You can translate it. Thank you. Are there other questions, or yeah? So how long can the project take in terms of preparation and exhibition? I've worked with different schedules, but what I think it's very useful, and what I do is I have one single line of research, and from that single line of research, which has been evolving since 1918 more or less, that's why I start with the data gossiping robots, is I just do like interventions or theatrical devices in the middle of this process, but all seen as a whole. For me, even on my life, I would say my professional life, but I cannot separate it with my daily life, evolves around these ideas and this thinking. So preparation would be that, and then exhibition, I unfortunately have to adapt to the professional needs of each project. And is programming coding difficult during your projects? You've mentioned that you need to learn everything by yourself. Yeah, but I've learned that when I was young. When I was younger. Yeah. So I started programming 10 years ago, and I think like if you ever have the chance to program, at the beginning it's confusing, but then when you start learning a little bit, then it gets easier. And now, for example, I've never learned Python, but I can do Python, like, because you have like the background. I don't know, you have the computational thinking in your head, and then it's easier to do. and I teach. I love teaching art, especially art students, how to create their own devices, especially in electronics and coding. For me, that's very important. The transfer of knowledge is very important for me. So I try to keep it as much as I can. I'm having little time, very little time every time to teach, but I try to keep it because I think it's very important.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, I didn't know who you were. Thank you. No, there you are.
Great. I also have one question. If you have one more minutes, Monica.
Yeah, sure. Let me know.
How do you define a successful project? Is it the impact that you're intended to create in social and cultural area, or what is it?
When I say successful, so okay, I'm trying to work on that, like going to therapy, because I have a lot of anxieties, and I'm trying to know why I have that, because I live my projects in a very, for me, they are a process, you know, like, I don't know if someone can relate with their art practice, but I put a lot of myself, this thing I was telling you about being all my life and my practice all together. So and because I make them and they are my babies, I call them babies sometimes, though that's kind of weird, but I do it. I'm not a mom, but I'm a mom of my robots, yeah, but I really have like this weird like personal attachment to them. That's why that's another like cool thing to understand. Like people like have this problem with robots and animated objects, and people are like, oh, people are going to fall in love with robots and stuff like that. And it's like, man, like we've been in love with objects all through history and cultures. Like if you in Spain, like there's people crying with the virgins, in the processions on Easter, like you have Rodrigo is laughing a lot, but it is like this. Like, I mean, we've been like, there's like in any cultures, we found like Tebogo, you were also talking about in Africa, how you have like this spirituality. There's objects which we've been linked and that we've loved. Like people love every teenager is in love with its smartphone, it's like, so we are linked to objects. So I have my babies, which are my projects that I make. And for me, a successful project is a project that I can actually experience. Like I was very lucky, for example, as a anecdote, I will explain you that I was very lucky that my solo exhibition was 100 meters from my house. It was very close to my house. I was very happy. And every time I was going outside, I would go and just walk around and see it. Some things, maybe they were broken, I was fixing them, but I like to talk to the people that were, the people that work in places taking care of things, the security people, or the mediators. For me, the people that work in museum as mediators, that they explain your art and stuff. It's super important. I was that too when I was in university. I did that, the Contemporary Art Museum of Barcelona. So I talked to them, and then I try to see how, like, if the people walking around and see it. So I like, for me, a successful artwork is when it makes an effect on people. I guess that would be the answer. And the only way to know if it makes an effect is walking around and stalking people, because no one is going to tell you, hey, your exhibition is shit, because I mean, people are polite, but but if you walk around and you see it, that's when you get the real vibe. So getting that vibe, and I have to say that I was quite happy in that exhibition. So that made me very, very proud. Yeah.
This is amazing. All of these was amazing. Monica,
Thank you.
really find every single thing that we mentioned today very insightful, and I'm hoping that it was insightful for our participants as well. As we are coming to an answer session, we are once again giving our mic to you to ask your question to the participants before you leave, perhaps.
Okay, I will do that. Yeah, I'm sorry I have to leave, but I have someone coming. Here is 3 p.m. and I need to work with someone for this past hour because she's taking a train. The person that is helping me sew the things. The question was like, did you write it down? Because we said it before.
Yeah,
okay, it was like, did you write it down? It was like, so from your cultural and social perspective, because I'm guessing there's a lot of people from different countries and cultural backgrounds. What would be your approach to an alternative technology, right? I mean, what would be how would you, like, if you could do like a similar exercise? Okay, here it is. How would your approach to your digital art Okay, yeah, to your digital art or to your alternative. It doesn't have to be art. It can be like, I think what I try to make with this question is an speculative exercise of imagining a technology that you would feel represented by. You know, if it's for a tool or for a device or a shape or a use or something that you would like to see. If you could do anything in the world with technology, what would it be?
Yeah.
So
this is a
that's it.
question for smaller groups, actually. In a minute, we'll send you a breakout rooms where you could also engage with the other participants and discuss through this question. And then in 10 minutes, we're going to come back to this main room, and I will have a little share out for the ones that are willing to maybe share. And this is also the end of the YouTube live session, so it's a goodbye for those who are watching us online. Just give a little wave for those.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. And goodbye to you too as well.